Hello everyone, this is the Vlogger. Welcome to the 5th episode of how to make an IO game. In this episode, I am going to cover callbacks and how to implement them into our code. After that, we're gonna learn about socket IO and how to send and receive information from client to server. Let's go. Okay, what is exactly a callback? Imagine you have a function and you're gonna know when your function is finished doing its job. You're gonna have a callback in the end, so then you know when it's finished. This is how we write it. I'm gonna write a simple function here. I'm gonna say, okay, function. I'm gonna give my function a name. Okay, I'm sorry, function. Print something for me, and this function gets maybe a parameter, and that parameter is gonna be any string. And it just console.logs my any string, okay, of my any. Simple. And in order to call this function, I can simply say under here, I can say that's it. I'm gonna pass in as the argument. This function has a parameter as input, and in here when I'm gonna give it the parameter, this is called the argument. So I'm gonna give it an argument. This argument is it can be anything. Hello world. And what will happen here is just if I control S for save, and just on the terminal, if you don't have the terminal, if you did this, if yours is like this, just move your mouse here, and your mouse cursor will change. Just drag it up, and you can see the terminal here. I'm gonna write not. I'm gonna say I'm sorry. Looks like it's a bug. I'm gonna hit here. I'm gonna go to terminal, new terminal. There we go. I'm gonna say not server/server.js in order to start the server. Okay, my function is working fine. It said hello world. It's typing. Maybe a better thing. This is a function. I'm gonna hit save, restart. Okay, it said this is a function. Notice that it is happening before the server started. I'm gonna tell you why it's happening, because server started is a callback itself. Don't care. I'm gonna comment the server started for now, just to be clear. Stop and start the server. Okay, this is a function is called. This is a function is wrote. But I'm gonna know when is my function. When is this code finished? I called this function, but I don't know how much it takes to finish doing its job. Imagine we have 100 lines of code in this function. Imagine we have 100 lines of code in this function. I'm gonna know when is exactly this function is gonna be finished. It's gonna be 2 seconds later, 3 seconds later, and I'm gonna do something after this function is finished doing its job. How can I do that? Okay, in order to do that, as the second parameter, I'm gonna give it a callback. I'm gonna give it a call back, just like that. So the second parameter of my function is gonna be a callback, and after as many lines of code I have, after that, I'm gonna say, okay, callback is gonna be called. So the second parameter is gonna be a function itself. As you already know, as a parameter, we can give it a string, we can give it number, we can give it objects, and we can also give it functions. Because in JavaScript, functions are some kind of objects. Functions and objects are similar. So I gave it. So the last parameter of my function is gonna be. The type of it is gonna be a function, and I call it callback. And in the end, I just call that function just like how I call a normal function. It's like this is a function, and this is how I call the function. Simple. And now because I changed it like this, I need to change it here as well. So the second, so I need to give it a second argument, and that argument should be a function, because this callback cannot be a string, it cannot be an object, it cannot be a number. It must be a function. So as the second parameter, I'm gonna give it a function. I'm gonna say, okay, I create a function. Instead of passing a function, I'm giving it a function. So I give it a function just like that. I hit enter, it becomes like that. And I'm gonna say console.log finished. Okay, function finished. I'm gonna hit save. So I do some bunch of stuff in this callback. So this is the callback. It's like this. I copy this and paste it here. It's like this. It's gonna be like this. I just pass some function to the callback and I call the function here. I hit save, Control C. I run the server again. If you notice, if you want to know how I do that with pressing the up arrow key, you can access to your final command. As you can see, this is a function is called. Here is what is responsible for writing this, and then after that, this function is called as a callback, just like that, and it is written here, function finished. Very simple. I don't like that point there. Okay. This is for the callbacks. Now, if you notice, I commented this line here. If yours isn't commented here, and you see this, in the end, you see a server started on port 2000. If you always see this in the end, and you can get rid of that, you can comment this line, okay? But let it be there. And now, because you know what is a callback, you can have a brief understanding of how this is working. If you notice, this line of code, console.log server started, is happening before our functions. So we need to first see the server started on port, and then we need to have these two print this is a function and function finished, and then these should be called. But that's not the case. This will always be in the end. Why is that happening here? Because this is a function that is acting as a callback in our server. Okay, so whenever we are basically telling the computer, okay, start this page, okay, this line of a script, this is a script that I have, the whole Nodejs I have, start every line of code. After everything is finished, okay, I start the server on this port, and I say, in a callback, I say, once you're finished, once the server finished, it's done. The server did everything it needs to be done. Then write a server started on port. So this is a callback of our server. It basically happens once the server started completely. So better change this line to server successfully run on port, the name of the port, the number of the port, and that's it. So this is basically a callback that happens only ever after every line of code is finished in my server side. So then we know if we are successfully connected or not. So this is a callback. Okay, don't bother much. I'm gonna comment this line of code and go talk about the socket IO. One thing I have noticed is that I have already imported the socket IO library on my server side. I have also imported the socket IO library on the client side. But in the client side, one more thing we need to do in order to have access to everything about socket IO, because we only did it in the index.html, there is something that we need to do in the sketch.js as well. You need to go to your sketch.js, create a global variable. I'm gonna create a global variable, call it socket. You can call it anything you want, but I call it socket because in the socket.io website, they create a variable with the name of socket. That's it. And in the setup, this is once the program is started, is loaded up. I'm gonna say socket is equal to IO, and IO is using the library that we imported in our index.html. So when we imported our library on the sketch, I call that library and I initialize it. inside a global variable called socket. So whenever I am going to use the socket IO, I can simply, whenever I say socket, then I have access to every functionality that socket IO gives us. That's it. I'm gonna hit save. Then now I'm gonna go to the pen. I've created a little bit of image here just to show you what we are gonna do in order to send and receive data in socket IO. Okay, this is the server here, and these are maybe 3 clients that connected to the server now. Imagine we have a bunch of data. We're gonna send this data from client number 1 to the server. How do I do that? First of all, we need a connection via the socket library, which we already have. We imported it on the server side, we imported on the client side. We made sure that they work. Now I'm gonna send a data from client 1 to server, just like that, from client 1 all through the server. How does that work? I need to call something, call a functionality of socket, call a functionality of socket, and that is emit. Emitting basically means a send. Whenever you say socket emit, it means that I'm going to send some data. So I say socket emit, it means that I send the data. Okay, I send it to the server side. Okay, but server should receive it. How the server should receive it? On the server side, we should call a functionality of socket, and that is the on. On the server, whenever I say on the server, it means that okay, I am ready to receive some information from the client. Okay, so I say on the client I say emit, on the server I say on. So I receive the data. So I know what the data is. So on the server side, now we can know we are ready to receive a data from the client. One important thing is that whenever we are emitting something, and on the server side we are listening to that. Okay, this is basically listening, just like human. When you talk, there should be some ears to listen to your voice. So whenever I emit, it means that I'm talking, and on the other side I should on. And server side, server should know who it should listen to. It should listen to the client 1, client 2. It should listen to what is the data. What is the data that we are receiving here? Is it a sound? Is it voice? Is it text? What is it? In order to do that, we need to, this is a line that we need to give a name. Maybe I do it better. So every line, just like that, this line that is responsible for sending and receiving data, I'm gonna give it a proper name. So in here, I'm gonna say the name of this line is message. Make it bigger. Ooh, too big. So this line is a message, just like a phone number. Maybe line 222. Okay, this is the name of line. Okay, so each line has a name. Now, whenever we are sending the data, whenever we are emitting a data, we have to say, okay, I am sending the data over which line, over what line, which line, this line, okay, what line? I'm gonna say, okay, over the name of line, over for example line number 1, I send the data, and the server side should listen to the line number 1. So I give it a better name. I'm gonna say message. So this, so I have on the server side, I am on to message line. Okay, so whenever any client sends a data over message line, server is ready to receive it. Okay, so there should be a function to receive this data. And now, what if I'm gonna send something from server to client? It's the other way around. I emit some data over the message line, and on the client side, I listen to that message line and I receive it. It's gonna be simple. What if now I'm gonna send some data from client number 1 to client number 2? How do I do that? Okay, I send it over the message line to the server, and there should be another message line on the client number 2. That on the server I send this over another message line to the client number 2, just like that. So client number 1, it's gonna send the data. What happened? Client number 1 is sending the data to the server, and server is sending that data to the client number 2. Okay, and this line is exact same as message line. What have I done? Maybe the name of this line is also message line. So the client is also on to message line. Clients are now ready to listen to this line as well. I hope you get it, but I say it once more. Whenever some client is going to send something to server, it's going to emit it. And after emission, it needs to, just like reality, it needs to have the phone number of server. Which line are you going to send your data from? I'm gonna say I have a line called message, or I have a line called 1234. I send it over that to the server, and server is ready to receive your message on that line. If server is not ready, and your message will be lost somewhere you don't know. And once the server receives that, server can now send it back to clients in whatever way it wants. It can say, for example, server can say, okay, I am going to send this message back to all clients from a message from a line called message again, and server just send it to the client, and each client that is ready to receive a message over that line will receive it. And there are multiple ways of doing that. For example, you can send a message from client to server, and from server you can send that message to everybody on the server. For example, server is gonna send this data to maybe 3 people at once, just like that. 1, 2, 3. Server has a data, and server is going to send this data simultaneously to all 3 clients at once. And there is a command for it on socket.io library. You can send it all together, or server can only send it to everybody except the client that just resend it. For example, this client sends the data to the server, and server is gonna send it back to all clients except the client number 1. How does that happen? It just happened like that. It comes to all clients except number 1, and there are functionalities for that on the socket.io library. We're gonna have a quick look about them. I go to socket.io website and go to their resources or go to their documentation and just see what you can do with socket.io. I'm gonna teach you everything about it in a moment, but now what I'm planning to show you, there is something very good to know about. There is a socket.io cheat sheet that we are gonna use, and that's it. I'm gonna put the link in the description below so you will have access to it real quick. There is a socket.io emission cheat sheet, and where you can find everything you need to have in your tool set. There is, for example, when you say socket.emit, it's only sending something to the client. When you say socket.broadcast.emit, it's gonna sending to all clients except sender. We're gonna experiment them all in the future, and now I'm gonna use only one of them just to give you a quick understanding of how to send and receive data. But I wanted to show you this website, this cheat sheet, because I guess you're gonna need it in future. There was a time that I didn't know about some of things like broadcast or anything like that, and I was writing my own functionalities just to have the same thing that they already have on their socket.io library. It basically made me 10 line of code to do the same thing, but after I found these cheat sheets, I could do it with only one line. Let's go ahead and maybe do some of these things in our game as well, which is not a game by now, but it will become once. On the server side, if you remember, we had here I have a variable IO, and I initialize it with the socket.io library. So it means that I have access to every functionality that an IO has, that the socket.io library has now. I'm gonna use this IO under here. I'm gonna say, okay, IO dot. Now I have access to everything that socket.io gives me. I'm gonna say on. It means that, okay, I'm gonna listen to a line that some information is gonna come through. Okay, I already told you about on. On, it means that server is ready to receive some information whenever it's coming. And I'm gonna give it a name, the name of the line. It can be just like a number, just like that, things like that. It's just like a phone number. But on the socket.io, you can give it any name you want. I'm gonna say connection, because connection is the thing that you must have at your first socket.io library thing that you use. Whenever you're gonna use socket.io library, the first thing that you should listen to, the first on that you should have, is the connection line, which is automatically made by socket.io library. Once a client is connected to your computer, this some data and information will automatically come through the connection line. Okay, and that's it basically. But if you already know, this on is somehow a function under this object, and this function gets a parameter, and the first parameter is the name of the line, which is connection here, which is necessary for the first on. After that, we need to give it a callback. You already learned about callback, so in here I cannot give it something that I want to. This must absolutely be a function. So this should be a function because it's a callback. It means that whenever something is successfully received from server, just do these things here. Okay, and this callback has a parameter that is usually called socket. Okay, the server call it socket, and this socket, we're gonna use this socket later on. So for each client who connects to our server, the server will receive its information, and it will do a callback over that information. What is that information? What is the information that the server will receive for each client who connects? We will get their ID, we will get the client's information. We will get the client's information be stored in socket product. So every client who double click on our website or click on our website goes in automatically. Socket.io automatically sends some information, their computer information, their current location, their time, their IP address, a given ID. It's gonna send those information to the server, and we are on the server. We receive that information inside the callback, and that information is now stored inside the parameter called socket automatically. Now we can have access to this socket here. I can say socket.on. It means that, okay, now for that client, I'm gonna listen to a line again, just like this thing here. Okay, I'm gonna say socket.on, the name of the line. I can say, for example, message, and after that another callback. I'm gonna say function. Here we receive the data and we do something over that data. Maybe I can console.log the data. Oh, I'm sorry. console.log data. I know it's getting some complicated thing, but that's the way it is. You will get used to it. But I'm gonna talk about this in a lot of times. Whenever we are going to use a socket.io, I will talk about this again. But let's have a quick look again. What happens here? We say io.on. It means for every client who connects to our server, I listen to them. Okay, the moment they connect to my server, this line will be called automatically. We do a callback. We receive the information about their computer and their location, their time, and their ID instantly in a parameter called socket. So from now, every client has an ID. We can separate clients by their IDs, just like near live. I get their ID and their information, and after that, I can listen to them. And in here, I have access. In here, I have access to each client information. So now I can listen to their messages, for example. And in another callback, I can get their data, the data they send. So whenever I say socket.on, it means that I'm waiting for some message to coming through this line. And the name of this line is also message. That's what we choose. Remember that this can be anything, just like that. This can be this, okay? But this one can't ever be changed. This one absolutely must be connection, but this one can have any name you want. After that, we do a callback. The data that clients sends will be stored inside this data, and we do a console log on it. And this data can also be named anything, but I call it data. I get the data and console log it. The thing is here, this socket.on means that this socket is a socket.io library object. Because we are using dot operand here, dot operation here, whatever, it means that socket is an object, and on is a function of that object. And this function is, in this functionality, is what socket.io library gave us. So I am not doing this by myself. I haven't invented this. This is what socket.io library made before. Okay, so this is a function that socket.io library made, and it said that the first parameter should be the name of your line, in which you're gonna receive and send, and the second parameter should be a callback, and this callback should have a parameter, and this parameter is gonna be the data that clients send to you. And right now I console log it. Simple. I'm gonna stop the server. I'm gonna go to the client now. I'm gonna go to my client JS folder and sketch.js. I don't care about index. I'm gonna save the server as well. I'm gonna go to sketch.js. In sketch.js, in the setup, right here, I have connected to the server. I initialize the IO library inside the socket, inside the global variable. So right now I have access to every socket.io library that you can find in socket.io library documentation from this variable. So I can say socket.emit. If you remember, emit meant sending. I'm going to send some information. What kind of information? First of all, it's already helping. Visual Studio Code is helping me. It said the first one is an event string, which should be a string. The second one is an argument. It can be anything. Don't care about that right now. I'm gonna say that the first one should be the line. I'm gonna say message line. Make sure that this line is the same, the name of your line that you're emitting something to the server. This should be the same as the one you're listening to on the server side. So message line here, message line here, okay? And after that, the second parameter should be the data that you're going to send. What am I going to send? I'm going to send a string here. I'm gonna say hello, I'm the Vloggerio connecting to your server. So once the socket.io library is done in the setup is the first thing that happens in our client side. Once we initialize the socket.io library, we send some information, which is this. We send this information through the message line. Of course, I can use the double quotation there if you're not familiar with that. We can also use a single quotation, no different for a string. Okay, so I give it the name of the line and I send my information over that line. And I hit save, I go to the server side, I listen, I say socket.on, I listen to that line, the name of the line was message, I receive that data inside a callback as a parameter, and I can now, and whenever now I call this data, I have access to whatever client sent me. Let's hit save, let's Control S here. Oh, I have lost it. I don't know if this is a bug or what. I'm gonna hit, I'm gonna start the server, node server/server.js. I hit enter. Server is successfully run on port 2000, but this has never been called. Why? Because I haven't, because no client is yet connected to my computer. Before that, under the connection, I'm gonna say console did log someone connected with the someone connected, and the ID is, what is the ID? ID is gonna be socket.id. So this socket, I already told you, socket has some information about clients. Each client who connects, we can have access to their time, to their location, maybe IP address, their ID, the time they connected, the time they left the server, things like that. So the first thing I can have access to, and the most important thing, of course, is the ID. So I can print the ID, see who is connected. Then that client is gonna send me a message, and I'm gonna log it. Okay, so I'm gonna stop and start the server again because I changed a line. I'm gonna go to Google Chrome. I'm gonna open a new tab, go to localhost 2000, and I'm gonna hit F12, see if there is no error. Okay, this Favico icon, I was going to solve it. This is basically some kind of problem with HTML. Don't care about it. We will fix it real time soon. This won't affect anything. Almost 90% of the websites you see on the net, they have this error. Okay, so we are connected to the server. No special errors here. Now I go to the server side. Oh, we see that server successfully run on port 2000. Then someone connected, and we have access to their ID, and their ID is something odd. After that, client sends something to the server. You see, this is the console of the server. We received something on the server side, and we are printing it. How? We don't have, as you can see, we don't have anything with hello, I'm the Vloggerio connecting to your server. We haven't write it here. Where is it? It's on the client side. Client sends that to the server. Server log it to its console, so it knows that someone is connected. Now I can send something back. I can say socket.emit another line, message from server, and I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna give it a message and say you're connected. Now, whenever I'm sending something to the client, on the client I should receive it, just like what I do here. So I go to the client side, maybe under here, I can also say socket.on, which line? Message from server, and after that I am listening to a line, so I need to give it a callback. So I give it a function, and that function gets the data, and this is a callback. And in here I can say console.log the data. I'm gonna hit save. I'm gonna stop and start the server. I'm gonna go to Google Chrome, refresh. As you can see, server sends a data to the client and it said you're connected. By the way, that error is gone. I don't know why that's a bug. So the server sends some data to the client and we are successfully showing that. Also, client sending some data to the server, we are also successfully showing that. And if you notice that two clients are connected, that is because whenever I refresh, there is gonna be a new client to the server. As you can see, a lot of people connected to the server. Right now we do not handle the disconnection on the server, but only connection. Ooh, it was a long class, I know, but it was crucial for starting any multiplayer game. This is gonna be the heart. This is gonna be the connection between client and server, the roadway in Socket.io. I hope you learned it. If you have any question, you can ask it in the comment section below. There is a lot more to Socket.io library. Of course, I am going to. I encourage you to go ahead and check these things. You can use them, see what they does. But in next few sessions, I'm gonna cover almost all of them, so you don't need to worry about that. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked my video, please consider subscribing, hit the notification button if you want to know when the next video is gonna pop up. Thank you very much. Goodbye. By the way, in the next episode, I am going to teach you how to draw your first character on the screen. So, stay tuned.